This is Charm's Canadian Love Map, the show that uncovers incredible Canadian love stories.
Tell people you love them. If we all amplify the love that we have, we can really change the world around them.
I love love.
Hi, I'm Nancy Regan, your host. And thanks to Charm Diamond Centers, we've spent nearly 10 seasons sharing the stories that shape us. This season, we're digging even deeper, chasing the spark behind every connection, the unexpected reunions, the little moments, and the bold leaps of faith.
In order to have world peace, or even a thought of it, we all have to work together.
And I was trying to connect. Is this who I think it is, or am I just overthinking it? I was kind of so confused. I just this is weird. I started getting very emotional. I pull up my phone. I oh my God, this is actually the same person.
Hey everybody, Nancy here. Today's love story begins with a digital connection worlds away that changed one person's life and then set them on a collision path years later. Fatu, a young teenager in Africa, uncertain about her future, watching a TEDx talk by Drew Dudley about lollipops moments. What landed wasn't fame or authority, but the idea that leadership lives in small human interactions. That seed quietly reshaped how Fatu saw herself and what might be possible. Well, fast forward a few years to when Fatu finally met Drew in person at a convention in Halifax, Nova Scotia. The emotional weight of that long arc from distant inspiration to lived reality kind of came rushing in, and their shared moment became a living example of how ideas travel, how stories ripple, and how possibility compounds over time. Together, their conversation explores leadership without pedestals, the invisible impact of encouragement, and what happens when we stop underestimating the power of small moments. I am thrilled to welcome Fatu and Drew to the Canadian Love Map.
Thank you, Nancy. That was beautiful.
Hi, Drew.
Hi, Nancy. It's so good to see both of you again.
Oh my goodness. This all started, I'd like to say right now, by me seeing a LinkedIn post that Fatu did after a convention that the three of us attended. And I did not know about your interaction, although I met both of you and was kind of impacted by both of you. I hadn't understood about what happened when your two ships collided. And Fatu's write-up on LinkedIn of what it meant to her just made all my Canadian Love Map bells ring. My radar was going off, and I reached out, and I'm so grateful that you both agreed to be, willing to tell this story.
I couldn't have missed this.
I should play the message that Fatu gave me, the voice message I got back when I asked her if she would do it.
Oh my God, I am screaming. Oh my God. I love you. Thanks. Oh my God, this is amazing. Yes, let's definitely have a coffee. This is so good. Really about to cry. Oh my God. Oh my God. I think I'm about to cry. Oh my God. You just made my day. I don't know. I feel so flustered on a podcast with Drew. Oh my God.
Drew, why don't we start with you talking about that particular video that Fatu saw quite a few years ago about lollipop moments?
Yeah, it's interesting. Lollipop moments sounds odd to people, I think, at first. But for what it's worth, it's intellectual shorthand for when leadership that had not previously been seen is recognized. It's a moment when somebody lets someone else know how an action, a ripple, a piece of impact that the person hearing about it may not be aware landed in the way that it did. And the whole thing is, it's really about ripple on impact. And I did a talk called Lollipop Moments, or Everyday Leadership, the Lollipop Moment, because my students at the University of Toronto pushed me to do it. They nominated me for an event I wasn't willing to go to at TEDx Toronto.
You're kidding.
They nominated without my knowledge. Yeah. So I found out I was doing that. God bless them, right? Because the challenge was, I always told them, you're not allowed to say you're just anything, because there it is. It's diminishing to what you're about to say or who you are, what you do. Mm-hmm. And when they came in and said, there's TEDx Toronto, you use TED Talks in your classes, in your workshops, you should do it. And I said, I'm just a part-time speaker. And they were having none of it. And I found out that I'd been selected after quitting my job, and I was sitting atop the pile of junk that a salvage or garbage company, when I got junk, was coming to pick up. And that's when I got the call. And they said, we don't know who you are, but the most nominations we got for anyone else was 3. And we got over 40 for you. Whoa. And they'd done it on Facebook. I wasn't on Facebook. I'd never heard of Facebook. And they started a group. And the next thing I know, my students had done it. And so any ripple that this whole interaction had actually goes back to whoever among those students said, hey, let's get together and push Drew to do it. And that they're the one who held me accountable. And so it was so interesting when you contacted me about this, I immediately flashed back to, I wonder which one of those students actually started this. And then they'll tell me, well, it was something you said before, and whatever I repeated to them probably came from someone 20 years ago. And the idea that it always sort of cascades forward is why I just loved it when you sent me that LinkedIn post. I had no idea that it was out there, and it caught me completely by surprise.
And those students, in nominating you and triggering that series of events, ended up propelling you into a full-time professional speaking gig, a tremendously successful one, by the way.
By the end of the day, it happened very, very quickly. And it was actually, the funny thing is, that's what introduced me to social media, and that's what made the talk. Is I didn't know what Facebook was until I got nominated. I didn't know what Twitter was until the organizer was incredibly excited that we were trending #1 in Canada after hashtag lollipop moment or whatever it was. I didn't know what that meant. And I'll tell you, don't forget that words like Twitter and hashtag, these were not part of the vernacular back then. So it was quite the experience all around to be able to do it. And I can't take credit for it. I was literally pushed into it. And
no wonder it's so short.
Without my knowledge.
What year was it, Drew?
2010.
Okay, so 2010, Fatu, where were you? And what was your setting? What was your life like at the time? And then we'll get into how this came on your radar.
I was back in Africa, Liberia. So it's a very small country in West Africa with total 5 million people. So it's very tiny. Mm-hmm. I was in high school then. I was very young. I can remember everything I was doing.
And you said after the Civil War, which makes me assume that you had lived, and you and your country had lived through a lot of unrest and upheaval.
Yeah. So Liberia went through a 14-year civil war and ended in 2003. I believe that was the last civil unrest. So during that period, I was born during the unrest and live afterwards. So I was a refugee for a little bit with my family. I lost family members during the Civil War.
Sorry.
And yeah, so it was basically transitioning and healing. But it was also a lot of other things that were going on. Even after the Civil War, we had like riots, religious riots, where time we had to just go through state of emergency because different cultural groups were fighting. It was also I think it was a little bit after we've just started resettling in school, because at some point my high school got burned down because it was a religious school. I can't remember the timeline, but it was just like too much going on up to 2010.
So there weren't a lot of lollipops or lollipop moments in your life at that time.
Yeah. So it was during that time also that I started, it was after 2010, I can't remember too much that happened, but it was after all of the unrest, just having like a very chaotic childhood experience that I became very interested in just being a leader. I wouldn't call myself a leader then, because for me, a leader was someone I would think about, say Bill Gates, or people who are doing amazing things in the world. Those are like the few names we knew then. So we would think about like the big people, like even the president then, who is the first female president in Africa, President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. So she became the first female president after the Civil War and took us through that period. So it was just a lot of like me then being someone who loved storytelling, who wanted to just make an impact.
What do you think it was? Or what do you really remember? What settled in your soul about Drew's talk about the lollipop moments?
So like when he said how when we think about leadership, we think about like the big people, the big things, but we don't think about like the everyday interaction. That was very important to me, because during that time, one of the things I thought about was, so something had happened before that. I was doing one of my volunteer radio shows, and a father called on my show, and he was like, because girls, like I said, education wasn't really a priority, but this father called and he was like, I most of the time turn in to listen to you because I don't see a lot of girls in our community that do this, and you really inspire me to want to send my girls to school. And so then when I watched this talk, and I like, something feels like a connection here. It like, maybe I should be claiming this space. That was very, very impactful. I used to do a volunteer radio talk show at that time, so I think maybe because I was a little bit muffy or loud. Anyway, so as part of that program, they will play videos for us, TED Talks, motivational videos. That's when I started to like listen to all these amazing people. And honestly, most of them did not feel relatable. That's when I also listened to the lollipop moment. It was very helpful because for me then, I wouldn't call myself a leader. It took me a while to be able to really say I'm a leader. So talks like that were very helpful. Watching this person who's in Canada, who's like part of the world, talk about, anybody can be a leader, like the little things matter. I did not know him, but I was like, okay, well, I can be a leader too. I can do something and I can claim that. So it was during those times that I wrote in my diary that by the age of 32, I want to be a TEDx speaker. I want to stand on that same stage and talk like that and inspire people. So I've organized my own TEDx event now. I've been a TEDx speaker now. But during that time, it felt very impossible because it took me a whole year to be able to get accepted into college. And then I went to school in the US. I actually watched the Lollipop talk twice. I also watched it after I got into college and I took entrepreneurship class, and one of my professors played it again during our leadership class. That was my first leadership course that I took, and I watched it again. But then that was when it was after I watched it in the US that I understood what an orientation leader was. I had no idea what that was when I was back in Africa. And so, yeah, fast forward, I think gradually I understood that I can make a difference, and I appreciate like all those little talks and inspirations that came along the way. And Drew always felt like a fictional character for me that you just like watch. You just like watch on TV and be like, okay, that is really inspiring, but it's like so out of reach.
Drew, how does that, I mean, I'm sure you've heard this many times, but how does that land for you to hear Fatu's story?
Yeah, I've been trying to figure out that as I listen to it, because I've heard people tell me that the talk mattered and it always means the world. And a lot of people precede it with, I'm sure you hear this all the time. And we don't actually, because I think most people assume that people hear or know how they've impacted you. And so we think maybe it'll be awkward, but I've never heard a story before like that. And every time someone says, I'm sure you've heard this before, they then say something so remarkably personal and unique that it means anytime someone tells you how something you put out into the world, you've never heard it before, because it's always a little bit different where it landed and why it mattered. And so it's odd when there's an analogy I've been using a lot lately because I realized how it applies to me. And it's weird how wise something seems when you realize it applies to you. But there's this, maybe not analogy, but a story about, and I should check if it's true, I suppose, that if you tie a baby elephant or you chain a baby elephant to a stake when it's little, and it'll pull and pull and pull and eventually say, oh, I can't break a chain attached to a stake. And it'll never try again, even when it becomes 3 times large enough to do it easily. And that idea that we tell ourselves something early on, and then that's just how it is, was one of the underpinning ideas of the lollipop moment when I looked out at my students and realized they didn't see themselves as leaders, even though they were among the most extraordinarily impactful people that I'd ever met, because of how they'd been taught what a leader was. And years ago, they'd seen this chain attached to a pole that said, no, this is followership and you're chained there. And I tried to figure out, when you're given 6 minutes, what's one message you can get across. And that's the one that I chose. I originally chose 3 because speakers love to do 3s. And then the beautiful thing about TEDx talks is that you have to make them shorter.
Zero
and
in.
You end up cutting the stuff you think can't be cut. It's just too good. And then you realize that it's better because of that. So, someone told me once, they asked, God, I forgot who carved David. There's a mind blank. But how do you carve a magnificent sculpture? How do you sculpt an incredible? And he's like, I just kept hammering away at the rock until all that was left was the statue. And that's what happened with that talk. And then to hear how unique it hit someone, because it was a year before it was put on TED. And I was so happy that it went well on TEDx Toronto and that it was getting a few views. And then it goes on TED and it ends up in places like Liberia. I don't know how to process that, given probably a good indication is the ramble I just went on as an answer. But it shakes you a little bit, because the unspoken side of that story is you are also doing things that hit people in a negative way at the same time. And I think deep down inside, that's the message maybe I was trying to convey, but you spin it and talk about what is more desirable instead of what not to do. It just has a different vibe to it. And I think the challenge is that's because that's always been what I focused on, is how maybe, and I think a lot of people out there too, I focus on how I might have hurt people without noticing. And I thought maybe it was worth talking about and giving ourselves some credit for the other side. But I actually think it was driven by a constant worry that I hurt people more than I help. And so to hear a story like that, anytime you walk up to someone who isn't a narcissist and say something you put into the world made my life better, they will not dismiss it. You just won't. Because on most days, we don't remember the best parts of what we've done. And to have it come out of nowhere means a lot.
It's so
and
true.
And that's what really hit me.
This podcast is made possible by the support of Charm Diamond Centers. As a proudly Canadian-owned company, they care deeply about shining a light on love. And Fatu, I'd love to hear what your impression is when your worlds collided and you heard Drew speak. What was that moment like for you?
So I did not know Drew was going to be one of the speakers because I did my registration a little late. And during that time, my aunt who raised me passed. So it was just, I was almost at the point where I wasn't going to go for convention. So I did not know who were the speakers. I was honestly just going in for some of the breakout rooms I did not sign up for because I didn't know. And so when I sat there and I like, this person, why does this person look so familiar? Like, and then when it kind of read the profile, like, why do I feel like this is a bit familiar? And I was like trying to connect. Is this who I think it is, or am I just overthinking it? I was kind of like so confused. I just like, this is weird. I started getting very emotional. I pull up my phone. I like, oh my God, this is actually the same person. I was very shocked. I was because and that's why for 2026 I decided to go with the word possibility, because that moment felt like it was. I don't know how to describe it. I was almost crying. I afterwards went off to talk to him. I was very unsure how to talk to him because I didn't want to kind of be like a fangirl to overwhelm him, but at the same time, I feel like he needed to know. And so there was just so much going on in that moment. I went to Tyler and I like, hey, listen, something weird just happened. And then I told Tyler about it. And it was just, I don't know. It was very overwhelming for me. Even when I called home, I called my mom, I called my sister, like, I can't believe I actually saw this person.
What did you say when you met Drew?
Oh, I told him about how I had watched his talk back when I was in Africa, and it was very inspiring, and how I also started dreaming about being a TEDx speaker. And then now I organize my own TEDx events, and how that just one concept of because throughout I did read a lot about people who were inventing big things, who were doing big things. But the thing is, it's also about relatability. You know how like sometimes somebody speak or they talk about this very cool invention or this very cool thing they did, and then you be like, oh, that's nice, but I don't see myself in it. I don't relate to it. And there is no way I can possibly implement what you're teaching me. But this is something that I can be like, oh, I just have to be nice. Maybe I could just smile at someone and make their day better, right? And so there was all of that. And then, yeah, I keep describing it as a fictional character walking out of a book to you, and you just don't know how to react. But it was, so I just saw him about it, and I don't know what I said too much because I was kind of getting very emotional and incoherent all around the place. But I hope it wasn't too overwhelming for him.
That's amazing. I have a feeling this love story is going to continue, and who knows what magic you guys are going to create in the world. I really think there is no ceiling for that. Fatu, what would you like to say to Drew right now?
I just want to say thank you for what you do and for inspiring people like me to see ourselves differently. There are a lot of speakers out there, but it's hard for you to see a speaker who you can say, oh, that's a white person in Canada. I don't know him. He seems really successful, but still say, okay, even if I don't relate to all of the experiences, there's something in this for me. And that's also why I even organize my own TEDx events, so that people can say, oh, there's something I can teach somebody. I have a voice. And so thank you. I don't know how else to say it, but the fact that I was actually able to talk to you and I'm on this podcast, I've been nervous all day today, so my nerves will calm down a little bit when I go home. It means a lot. I hope you continue to do what you do. And I was honestly surprised at CAPS when you said, because I was in the little group when you're talking about, was this helpful? And I'm like, he too can ask questions. I always thought he was like a superhero, but that was very helpful because it also told me, okay, you can actually continue your speaking. You know, you can keep pitching yourself and you can do better, because this is someone who you've listened to years ago and who looked very out of touch, but now you see the human side of him. I appreciate the way you carry yourself, the way you make everybody feel like their voice counts. Thank you.
Fatu is the organizer of TEDx Argyle Street in Halifax, if anyone would like to look that up. And Drew, that might not have happened without you. So please feel free to give Fatu a final message before we wrap up.
You don't always know if something you put out there lands. And so anyone listening, please tell people, no matter where you've put them. And I just want to say thank you for what you just said, not just about the impact, but about how that day went, because what you just described is different than I've generally been, because I went to that conference trying not to perform for the first time in 20 years. And I was so much more comfortable and grateful to be there and felt so much more connected to people because I tried to be quieter. And if we talk about leaning in, people either lean in to whisper, which usually isn't a good thing, honestly. They lean in to yell, which is rarely a good thing, or they lean in to listen. And so leaning in, you have to ask why you're doing it too. But my message to you is anything you see in my voice, I seriously doubt there is anything in my voice that isn't in yours and potentially stronger. Because my voice comes from what everybody expects a speaker to look like. I'm a white guy who kind of looks like an American. But different voices, I think, are more powerful right now. And I think that talk landed because I was saying goodbye as a public speaker. I'll still give speeches, but I wrote that speech to say I loved this job, but it's time for something new. And just to know that there are voices like yours, which can be as powerful or more to other people, because there are plenty of people like me who look and say, oh yeah, I could be a speaker. I'll get around to that. But it's people like who will come to TEDx Argyle and who are back home for you in Liberia and beyond that will say, look at her, I can do that. And that, I think, is just as powerful or more than anything I'll ever do. And I gave the talk that ended up sticking when I was older than you. I didn't discover the thing I was born to do till I was 29. So for you and everyone listening, there's so many big things ahead. So many big things ahead. So many. So thank you for that. It's nice to know that a bigger voice than mine might be stepping in as I try to step off.
You got us both in tears. I got nothing. I got nothing but a huge heap of gratitude and love for both of you. I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Can I just say one last thing? I'm so sorry. I know you were wrapping up
No,
there.
sure thing. No problem.
But just try to make sure, given the name of the podcast, I've just been thinking about this a lot. And just every now and then in your life, check in, especially if you're going to be asked to speak in a lot of places. Make sure the people who hear your voice the most aren't strangers. And this job, especially when your voice impacts other people positively, you can spend a lot of time in your life where most of the people who heard it weren't the people closest to you. And I think that no matter what you can put into the world, and this isn't just speakers out there, this is everybody who ask yourself, the people who hear your voice the most, are they the ones who love you the most? Because if it's not, we're doing something wrong no matter what you're getting paid, honestly.
That is very helpful. Can I add a short story? If that's okay. Yeah. So I appreciate that. And I think I'm also at a point where I'm learning to understand that because coming from my background, obviously there's been a lot of imposter syndrome. So this happened last year when I was on a call with my mom. So like I said, she got married at the age of 13. I am 27. I'm not married. And so she and I were on a call and the conversation about marriage came up. And I was like, oh no, are you about to talk to me about marriage again? And she's like, no, absolutely not. Marry when you want to marry. This is a very traditional woman I'm talking about. And she said, a few days ago, I think it was a few days before she and I talked because we were all talking, she said she attended this women gathering and she was just casually talking to a friend and she's like, hey, I hear is your daughter getting married or engaged? And this lady was like, absolutely not. Your girls are going to school. I see what Fatu be doing. Why would I want my girls to get married? My girls are going to school. And she was like, oh, I thought you guys were all pointing finger at me before that my girls are going to school. And so she then told me, she's like, now everybody's like talking about sending their girls to school because they see what you're doing. You be giving speeches, be putting it out there. They listen to it. Even if they don't understand English, they still see you doing these things. So I appreciate that. And I'll take that as my way to go forward. I appreciate your message. I will always do my best to believe in my voice and know that it counts. And hopefully it impacts the people that needs to be impacted the most.
Whew. Thank you both so much for your leadership and the way you're showing up in the world.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Hey, when's TEDx Argyle? And
let
me know if you need a speaker.
8th.
That'd be fun.
Ooh, yeah. We currently have our speaker application open. So we've been leaving a speaker application open because Man, I am surprised by how much people show up. From last year alone, our first call, we had almost 150 people applying to speak, and we only end up having 16 people speak. I don't know how this year is going to go. I'm a little nervous, but if you know our speaker, definitely let us know. We definitely open to a lot of amazing, brilliant speakers, and my goal is to make an annual stage, because it's one of the places that I dreamt of for so long. Like I said, in my diary, I was thinking I would do it at 32, and then I did at 25. And so hopefully we make a space for a lot of people.
Whew. And the love continues.
Yay.
Thanks, guys, so much. Thanks, Drew.
Thanks,
My
Drew.
absolute pleasure. What a day.
Thank you, Fatu. You're
Thank
wonderful.
you, Nancy.
Thanks so much for listening. If you have loved this episode, then why not subscribe, rate, and review Charm's Canadian Love Map? Do you have a love story that you're dying to share, yours or someone else's? Reach out to us at Canadian Love Map on Instagram or Facebook. We'd love to hear your story.